When did the war in heaven happen? This is actually a very good question. Did the war in heaven happen before the earth was created? Or was there an earth beforehand and that war in heaven destroyed the earth? Did the war in heaven happen after the earth was created? Is it connected to the sons of God coming down to impregnate the daughters of men? Does it have anything to do with other ancient stories? So did the war in heaven happen before the creation of the earth or after the creation of the earth? And then why would the evil forces be sent to the same place that this good God supposedly is sending and creating the children to which he loves? Makes no sense. But we're going to try to make some sense out of it. So when it comes to the creation myth, the Bible believers' creation myth have elements of it that comes from the book of Enoch, to which was not written until around the 3rd, 2nd century BCE as fan fiction of events that supposedly happened thousands of years prior. And the book of Enoch was widely read and widely accepted and believed in many Christian cultures all the way up until around the 3rd, 4th century CE. This is why the book of Jude and other books quote from the books of Enoch. The book of Enoch tells a tall tale of how there was this war in heaven, and the angels and demons fought. The angels fought against the demons and the devil and lost this battle and was cast down to earth as their prison. But is that where the story originated? What other stories would have been known to these people in and around the 3rd and 2nd century BCE? Well, they would have known the Greek story of where Zeus fought against the Titans. And then upon defeating the Titans, they were chained beneath the earth. When Prometheus gave man fire, he was chained on the earth. They would have also known the Akkadian Sumerian story, since they were previously Canaanites. And they would have known the story of Marduk from the Babylonian perspective, of how Marduk engaged in this great war in heaven and defeated Tiamat, and from the body of Tiamat created the earth as well as the asteroid belt. So in the end, what you get is a creation story that comes from many parts. In the beginning, the earth was void and without form, and chaos reigned over the earth. Then God breathed over the waters of the earth, of the deeps. If in the beginning there was nothing, where is this water? Where did this water come from? Why was the earth without form? Why was the earth in chaos? You see, the earth existed in the Greek story prior to the war in heaven. The earth did not exist prior to the war of Marduk and Tiamat. But it gets smashed together as if the earth was already created. So therefore, they took the chaotic waters, the chaotic disformed world, from the combination of that Greek and Akkadian Sumerian story. Now, once this war happens, there is now a place for these demons and devils to have been thrown down to. But many will say that, well, there was an earth that was created prior to, and the war in heaven caused the destruction of that earth. And so that is why it was in chaos, and that is why it was void of life, and it was disformed. Many believe that that is what the Bible is describing. So the war in heaven could have taken place before the earth was formed, if you're looking at it from a Sumerian perspective, or since they had been conquered by the Greeks at the time frame of the writings of Enoch and had been under Babylonian and Persian control for centuries, they mixed the story together. So all in all, in order for the devil to be cast down to earth, the earth had to be formed during that time frame and then was destroyed during this great war in heaven. Now we know none of this is true. We know that the earth formed over a process of billions of years. But they didn't understand science. They didn't understand atomic structure. They didn't understand how stars are born in nebulas, and then from stars and all the um, matter that is in and around that star, when it pulls itself away from that nebula, it would begin to form solar systems. They didn't understand that type of cosmology. For them, everything was created by the gods. Everything was created from the bodies of gods. So for them, the Tiamat story rings true. For them, the Greek story of Zeus rings true to them. But since they were creating their own religion, their own history, I should say, to connect to their religion, they made a story that fits better with them. And since they needed to explain how bad things happen or why bad things happen, instead of saying that there's a God that controls this wind that keeps blowing, a God that controls tornadoes and hurricanes and other natural disasters, let's make a devil. But even at that time, the serpent, Satan, and Lucifer were not considered the devil. This was a later harmonization that happened about 300 to 600 years later. So in their mindset, this God didn't send a serpent down into the garden to tempt Adam and Eve. But when you harmonize them, you have to ask the question then, why would a God allow for his enemy to be present and have not authority, but have influence in the lives of his creation that did not know the difference between good and evil? Let me put it in this perspective for you. You own a bank. Someone gets out of prison for money laundering. Do you hire them? You own a car dealership. Someone gets out of prison for grand theft auto. Would you hire them? I'm sure your answer is no. In your own house, you're going to allow for, you just had you got some small children. Would you allow for a P3DO to rent a room in your house? You wouldn't. But yet the grand plan of this all-powerful, omniscient God was that I'm going to cast these enemies of mine, who my first children who rebelled against me and have no recourse for repentance, but are doomed to the lake of fire, and they know this. I'm going to allow them to dwell in the same house that I'm building and creating these beings that don't know the difference between good and evil. I'm going to allow them to be in the same place as creatures that I claim that I love, that I'm willing to sacrifice myself for. Does that make any sense? It sounds like continuous bad planning that this God demonstrates on a continuous basis. Of all the planets just in our solar system, of all the meteorites and comets and all the other stars and all the other solar systems throughout the known universe, and even more so, billions and trillions more in the portions of the universe we have no idea about, the only place you could put your enemy and the creatures that you claim that you love is Earth. Sounds like some earthlings creating and making their own gods and their own devils. But what do you guys think? And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.